let me start off by introducing myself. My name is Joseph Craiglow, and I've been passionate about technology since the early days of the internet. It all started back with the 486 and 56K modem that my dad had. And then fast forward about 20 years, I've had the opportunity to wear nearly every hat in the IT world, from database developer to PHP programmer, Perl programmer, administrator, sysadmin, DevOps engineer, you name it, I've done it. For the last 8 years, I've been part of Gannett, and I currently serve as the senior manager of the cloud engineering team. It's been an incredible journey, and I've been able to work alongside a lot of talented individuals with getting new challenges every day. So since you're getting to know me a little bit, I'll share a little something about myself. Favorite hobbies, home automation, working on cars, and woodworking. So if you ever want to talk about rebuilding a Ford 429 engine or anything tech related, please feel free to look me up on LinkedIn. So a little bit about Gannett. Gannett is a leading media, digital, and marketing company dedicated to empowering communities across the nation and locally. Through the USA Today network, we reach about 200 million unique visitors a month, and NewsQuest in the UK. We deliver essential journalism and digital experiences. Our local IQ brand offers innovative marketing solutions for small and medium-sized businesses, and we are committed to providing high-quality, unbiased content that helps audiences and businesses connect and thrive. A little change that I didn't get a chance to put in the slides because it just happened yesterday. We are no longer Gannett, but we're known now as the USA Today Co. Our partnership with Grafana started the way many great partnerships start. Late night at a bar. So while attending a cloud conference, one of our colleagues, they brought along their Grafana rep. And the conversation quickly turned into what does your monitoring setup look like? And let me tell you a little about the open observability cloud solutions that Grafana has to offer. And then, as fate would have it, about 6 months later, we were in need of a new cloud monitoring platform. We evaluated several vendors, arranged reference calls, meetings to determine which one best fit our needs. And then Grafana consistently received the strongest recommendations. Their team was responsive, flexible, and able to meet all of our requirements. And we launched a proof of concept in short order with a clear goal of transitioning to Grafana as soon as possible. Over the years, I've worked with many vendors and onboarded many of their tools. Challenges are often the same, regardless of vendor. With Grafana, I was committed to perfect the vendor management, and particularly as it relates to observability tools. Common issues that can arise, they show up often and early, but sometimes they can show up years later. So learning from our past challenges, we set out to improve from the past issues and prevent any future ones. User management can get messy. It's not always the customer's fault. Often users are grouped together by teams or organizations, and it makes it difficult to restrict access or management to specific group permissions. Many vendors still lack SCIM implementation that makes it difficult to manage onboard and offboard users. And even after the SCIM implementation is made available, nobody ever goes back and cleans up those old users. With SAML integration, user provisioning is usually one way. The user is added, but removing them, there is no really automatic way of doing that. It's critical to set up proper user roles and permissions from day one. So start with the essential roles, admin and users at a minimum. Restrict admin to a single team if possible. Use infrastructure as code to manage permissions so you can review any changes and reset configurations that may have been done manually from the console. As users become more familiar with the system and business needs evolve, be sure to adjust your permissions accordingly. For dashboards and alerts, nothing bothers me more than Bob's alerts, testing dashboard, or production uptime do not touch. As we all know, developers are the best at coming up with names. With dozens of development teams, dashboard clutter is inevitable. With some dashboards and alerts that may be important to a specific team, but others, they may not care about it. So that's where naming and metadata is really important. I've seen SSL and synthetics alert that have been going on for years and years. Only when somebody had a chance to look at it, we've realized that it's actually pinging the IP of a company that is not ours. We're giving them free uptime checks, essentially. And then dashboards, especially if they're triggering on generic data, they may look busy or important or used, but often they're just forgotten junk. And then my personal favorite is the failed alert that's been going off since 2017 in hopes that somebody will see it and eventually revive that old WordPress site. Infrastructure as code is essential for our team. Whenever we start a new project, my first question is, how can we Terraform it? Quickly followed by, how can we automate this? With Grafana, we've applied Terraform to every aspect of management, from stacks, user roles, teams, data sources, plugins, synthetics, and more. This approach enables us to collaborate more effectively, changes are peer-reviewed, and knowledge is shared across the team instead of siloed with one individual. Additionally, we maintain a stable version of our configuration, which can easily detect drift. Our external auditors really appreciate this transparency. And personally, I find it a lot easier looking at our environment's configuration as code than navigating through the user interface. One important lesson we've learned is the value of carefully managing user permissions. While it's tempting to onboard a user, give them admin, editor for self-management, this approach can quickly lead into unintended consequences. With Grafana, our default permission is viewer. We've established 3 custom roles, admin, developer, and IRM. And you might wonder how these custom roles are set if everybody is a viewer by default. The answer is we assign the permissions to roles to groups, and group membership is managed through Active Directory. 1 custom role per group, and when a user is assigned to that group, they are granted the role. These custom roles are, of course, maintained with Terraform. We use simple JSON to define the permissions for each role. And the reason we use JSON is because it's easy to read, and Grafana's API already returns the permission data in JSON format, so we just copy and paste. When the user requests access to Grafana, the process is really simple. They just fill out a form. The form collects basic information like who's the user, which organization or group they belong to. If the user needs access to an existing group, we just add them to the appropriate AD role group. Single sign-on is then automatically added to the user, and that's quick and easy. If a new group is required, then we must first provision it. The Terraform is our tool of choice. As you can see on the screen here, it's not actually Terraform, but it's YAML. It's YAML because it's a lot easier to automate with YAML than it is with Terraform. In our case, the Terraform module takes in the YAML information and provisions the new group. If you don't want to automate it, all you need is to open up a pull request with 5 lines of code, and you have a new group. As it stands, the YAML contains 5 entries. Name, which is the name of the group being displayed in Grafana. Email, the point of contact of that email, also assigned to the group's configuration. Vault path, if anybody is not familiar with Vault, it is a secrets engine. And when that value is populated, the code automatically provisions a service account within Grafana as well, and provides the API token to that team through Vault. AD role group is, of course, the role group to match the user when they log into the Grafana. And then the custom role is one of the 3 roles I previously mentioned. By implementing namespacing, custom roles, groups, and teams, we've been able to achieve true traceability and ownership within Grafana. Assigning roles at a group level, rather than to individual users, it allows us to control where dashboards and alerts are placed in Grafana to avoid that inevitable clutter. Users are restricted to creating dashboards and alerts only within their group's designated folder. This structure makes it easy to identify responsibility when an application is eventually shut down. It's immediately clear which team owns it in case there are any remaining ping alerts or dashboards that are just going nowhere. This clarity streamlines cleanup and accountability across the organization. Our transition to Grafana was fast-paced. After the contract was signed, we just had about 3 weeks to get everybody onboarded in the company, which actually meant that my team only had 1 week to do it. We began our journey in sandbox clusters. Initially, we wanted to send data out to multiple endpoints, so we chose standard OpenTelemetry deployment. This meant that we intentionally sent metric and trace data to 3 or 4 different endpoints, allowing teams to experiment and determine what will work best for their needs. After some time, we refined the approach by separating each exporter, so data would only go to 1 endpoint, which is the one that the team would prefer. Most teams went with Grafana, while we had 1 or 2 teams that wanted to stick with GCP. To manage data volume, metric sampling is enabled to prevent ingesting all of the data. And if a team requires more than 70% sampling rate, they can deploy their own OTel collector in their own namespace. And our setup is as follows. Standard Prometheus is running in its own namespace and handles cube state metrics and node exporter. The Grafana agent consumes metrics from Prometheus and OpenCost. Logs are handled by Loki for annotated deployments. And finally, OpenTelemetry is in its own deployment, which then allows us to override exporters or for teams to override configurations on their end. On the second day, we deployed Grafana to all our GKE clusters and quickly realized our mistake. We were exceeding our metric ingest quota. Upon reviewing the clusters, we discovered that most of our production clusters had multiple KSM instances and Prometheus. So Grafana was doing its job. It was grabbing all the metrics that it could find. This included remnants from previous monitoring tools and some oversight on our end. As mentioned earlier, we prefer to run our own independent Prometheus installation. This is because every monitoring tool out there is always going to want to install its own version of Prometheus. We ensured Prometheus was running KSM and node exporter and was ingesting only the metrics we actually needed. The Grafana agent was pulling those metrics from Prometheus namespace, and then by the end of the day, we redeployed and brought our metric ingestion back under control. Next up, our top priority for day 3 was monitoring our usage and setting up alerts. As much as Grafana encourages usage, exhausting our total metric ingest quota in just 1 week would not sit well with our finance team. Building on the billing dashboard, we adapted key queries to track our consumption, set up alerts to notify the team whenever we exceeded our monthly quota for any service. These alerts were, of course, managed with Terraform, and we periodically adjust them as our needs grow or shrink. We implemented these alerts about 2 years ago and have been working reliably ever since. Most recently, Grafana introduced usage alerts, which gives teams full visibility and observability costs with out-of-the-box billing dashboards and proactive usage alerts. It helps stay ahead of spikes, forecasts future usage with AI, and optimizes metrics and logs to avoid waste. Well, I can't take credit for what Grafana did, but I wonder if they took any inspiration from my dashboards. On the 4th day, we slowed down the pace a little bit and integrated Grafana with our external systems. Our first external data source was GCP Cloud Monitoring. It allows teams to merge their Grafana metrics with metrics from GCP. Next, we set up standard alerting endpoints like Slack and Microsoft Teams and incoming and outgoing webhooks. And then on the last day, our focus was on ensuring thorough documentation, establishing internal procedures. The Grafana professional services team had done an excellent job providing training and help with resources to our teams. We published guidance in our internal blog, including where to find more information, support, sample code, and alerts to get teams up and running. Finally, we provisioned the remaining users and prepared for the following week when everybody was set to begin actually using Grafana. So after a long and hectic week, my team finally put our pencils down and we waited for the weekend to pass. 2 days later, Monday arrived and teams were ready to start using Grafana services, migrating their applications, setting up alerts, transitioning from legacy monitoring platform to the new one. It had been a long weekend, but as Monday came, we were prepared for the next chapter. And nothing happened. No alarms, no issues, no reports of, hey, this doesn't work. It was a pretty uneventful week. We encountered a handful of access issues for teams and users that we had missed. A few users wanted to explore additional areas of Grafana, so we adjusted permissions accordingly. And finally, we handled some support questions, but overall, the rollout was remarkably smooth. Over the next few weeks, we closely monitored our usage. But a month later, we had a baseline established and we adjusted our alerts for consumptions accordingly. During this period, we reviewed and enabled adaptive metrics. Leveraging adaptive metrics and the cardinality dashboard helped us reduce overall consumption. And we were even able to find a team that was inadvertently blowing up our cardinality. Adaptive metrics is just one component of the broader adaptive telemetry suite, which includes adaptive logs, adaptive traces, adaptive profiles to intelligently classify, aggregate, drop, or sample low-value telemetry so you keep full visibility while cutting costs. Then a few months later, our biggest day in news arrived. You may have heard about it, but it was the 2024 presidential elections. As a news company, this is one of our biggest nights. And it is critical that we are up and running without any issues. So although we had our own internal load testing tools, we wanted to go that extra step and extremely test under real world conditions. So we looked at case 6, which brings performance testing into the observability stack. It's developer friendly, scalable to millions of users, and supports modern protocols like HTTP, gRPC, and WebSocket. With Grafana complementing our existing tools, we were able to scale up our clusters and identify any weak spots in our APIs or front ends. Despite having no prior experience with case 6, we had it up and running in about 3 hours. And then over the next 4 days, we experimented and tested using case 6 and only managed to spend a couple $100. About a year later, a new need emerged within the company. Our contract for our on-call vendor was coming up for renewal. And then my manager approached me and said, hey, Joseph, can you take a look at what's available these days for an on-call solution? I assured him I'd get right on it, but in reality, I just went back to my desk and looked busy for 2 weeks. Eventually, I came back and said, hey, boss, we can use Grafana. They have an on-call solution. It's called IRM. No need to go through procurement because we're already giving them money for other stuff, and it would allow us to consolidate with one vendor. Incident responsive management unifies alerting, on-call, and incident workflows in one place, and integrated directly with the observability data. Teams can collaborate, document, resolve faster, all with AI-powered summaries and flexible pay-as-you-go licensing. He responded enthusiastically by saying, Joseph, you're the best employee that I have. I know I just gave you a raise, but here's another one. Or at least that's how I remember it. So on day 1, we were already familiar with alerting. So the main task was just setting up on-call rotations, configuring incident triggers within Grafana, with the integrations to Slack, Microsoft Teams, and webhooks already in place. Half of the work was already done. We updated the custom roles to include the IRM-related permissions, quickly implementing these changes with Terraform, and introducing our third custom role. For day 2, our account team informed us that there was a migration tool that we could use to quickly migrate from our old vendor into our new one. Quickly, to streamline our process, I tested the tool right away. Unfortunately, the tool didn't work as expected. I went and complained to our account team, but as it turns out, it's not really Grafana's fault. It was this vendor whose APIs weren't really that helpful. I was able to modify the tool enough to import team names and got all the important information that I needed out of it. For day 4, I created a script to provision the new AD role groups, the corresponding Terraform code to match the important teams, ensuring consistency with the existing Grafana setup. I also assigned the IRM custom roles to all these new groups. And then finally, on day 5, the professional services team organized a demo and showcased to all the features that IRM has to offer. After that demo, we open it up for consumption. Now, while I can't predict what tomorrow will bring, I can share where we stand today. When we began our journey with Grafana, our primary focus was on metrics and traces. As our needs evolved, we discovered that Grafana could offer much more. Thanks to the foundational work we did up front, we were able to quickly provision users and services with the right guardrails in place. Throughout the journey, we expanded our capabilities, adding K6, IRM, and even a little bit of logging. As we look ahead, I'm confident that whatever new requirements arise, we'll be able to meet them swiftly and effectively. Thank you.